The Krell Dominion had ruled 47 star systems for 3,000 years without ever facing a true challenge to their power and authority. Across the eastern spiral arm of the galaxy, when their long range, scouts detected unusual electromagnetic signals emanating from a yellow star system in what the galactic charts labeled as Sector 331. War Master Throck ordered an immediate investigation into the source of these primitive transmissions. The scout ships spent 6 months observing the third planet from afar, recording everything they could about the species that called themselves humans and their world. Named Earth, what they found seemed almost too easy to be true for a dominion that had grown hungry for new resources and territorial expansion. The humans had barely achieved faster than light capability within the last 50 years. Their ships were crude by Krell standards. And most shocking of all, they remained divided into competing nation-states that still waged wars against each other over resources and ideology. Krell War Council reviewed the intelligence reports with growing satisfaction and confidence. In what appeared to be an effortless conquest, they fight among themselves, constantly observed High Tactician Vemra as she displayed holographic projections of human conflicts across their homeworld. Their most powerful weapons are fusion-based. Explosives that would barely scratch our shield matrices, added another council member with dismissive contempt. War Master Throck studied the data with his 4 eyes, each one focusing on different aspects of human civilization and military capability. Something nagged at his tactical instincts, a feeling he could not quite identify or articulate to his fellow commanders. They survived this long while fighting each other, he said slowly, his mandibles clicking in thought. That means nothing. Vemra responded quickly. Weak species often turn upon themselves when no external threat focuses their aggression outward toward a common enemy. The War Council voted unanimously to proceed with the invasion and annexation of the Sol. System 300 warships assembled at the edge of Krell space, each vessel bristling with plasma cannons, particle beam weapons, and shield technology that had conquered dozens of civilizations before them. Fleet entered faster than light transit and emerged at the outer edge of the Sol system without any warning or diplomatic overture. Humanity's early warning satellites detected the massive energy signatures immediately and broadcast emergency alerts across every inhabited world and orbital. Station Admiral Chen Wei was in a strategy meeting aboard the Lunar Command Citadel when the alarms began their urgent wailing throughout the facility. "Get me a visual now," she commanded, her voice steady despite the sudden spike of adrenaline coursing through her veins. The holographic display materialized above the conference table, showing 300 contacts that dwarfed anything in humanity's defensive fleet. "My God," whispered one of the junior officers, his face going pale as the tactical computer calculated the enemy's firepower. Chen studied the formation with the calm focus that had earned her command of Earth's defensive operations against this exact scenario. Humanity had known this day would come eventually, had prepared for it since the Cold War era, when nuclear stockpiles first gave humans the power to destroy themselves. The preparations had simply changed focus from human enemies to unknown threats from the stars beyond their small solar system sound general quarters. Across all defensive platforms, Chen ordered activate the reserve fleet and bring all orbital weapon systems online immediately. "Admiral, we have 47 ships combat ready," reported her tactical officer with barely concealed desperation. "They have 300 and our vessels are outgunned in every. Then we make every shot count." Chen replied without hesitation. The Krell fleet broadcast their demands across all human frequencies in a message translated into every Earth language simultaneously. "Primitive species of the third planet, you are hereby claimed as subjects of the Krell Dominion under War Master Throke's authority and command." The message began in tones of absolute certainty. "Surrender all military vessels immediately. Submit to Dominion authority. Your population will be allowed to continue existing as tributary servants to the greater Krell civilization. Resistance will result in the systematic destruction of your population centers until compliance is achieved through force." The United Earth Council convened an emergency session, representatives from every nation gathering, In the secure bunker beneath Geneva, the debate lasted less than 10 minutes before the vote was called and the decision reached with surprising unanimity. President Sarah Okonkwo of the United Earth's government composed the response herself. Keeping it short and direct, know that single word, broadcast across open channels, reached the Krell fleet within seconds of transmission. Wardist Throk's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or irritation at the humans. Foolish defiance begin bombardment of military installations. He commanded target their orbital platforms first, then their surface-based launch facilities. Show them the futility of resistance. The Krell warships opened fire with precisely coordinated volleys of plasma, bolts that streaked across the void toward human defensive positions. The first human ship to die was the destroyer Wellington, its shields collapsing under sustained fire before a plasma bolt penetrated the hull and detonated the reactor. Corps Admiral Chen watched 47 souls disappear from her tactical display in an instant. Their sacrifice buying seconds of data on Krell weapon capabilities return. Fire, she ordered coldly. All platforms. Engage at maximum range humanities. Ships and orbital fortresses launched there. Response with everything they had in their arsenal: nuclear-tipped missiles. Railgun slugs accelerated to hypersonic velocities. Laser arrays powered by fusion reactors. In kinetic kill vehicles designed to punch through any known armor, the Krell shields absorbed most of the incoming fire. But not all of it found its mark. 3 Krell frigates took damage when concentrated. Railgun fire overwhelmed their defensive screens, and 1 destroyer vanished in a nuclear fireball when its shields failed at a critical moment. War Master Throk studied the battle reports with growing unease at the humans. Tactical competence: their weapons were primitive. Yes, but they were using them with disturbing effectiveness and coordination. They are targeting our ships in groups, observed High Tactician Vemra, concentrating fire to overwhelm individual shield matrices rather than spreading damage across our formation. Clever, Throk admitted grudgingly as the Krell fleet advanced toward Earth's orbital space. Something began to happen that violated every expectation in their tactical database. Weapons platforms were activating across the entire solar system, emerging from hiding places among asteroid fields on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Buried beneath the rust-red soil of Mars, the humans had not concentrated their defenses around Earth alone, but had fortified every strategic position across their entire star system. How many weapons platforms are there? Demanded Throk, as the tactical display began filling with new hostile contacts. Counts are still coming in. War Master, replied the sensor officer with evident confusion. Current estimates exceed 2,000 individual defensive positions. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a fortress, and the Krell fleet had just flown into the killing ground. The battle raged across Earth's orbital space for 3 days, without pause, as human defenders fought with a tenacity that shocked the Krell commanders. Every time the Krell fleet moved to engage one group of human ships, weapons fire erupted from unexpected angles as hidden platforms revealed themselves. War Master Throk had already lost 30 ships to these ambush tactics, and his carefully planned invasion was turning into a grinding war of attrition. The humans are using guerrilla warfare in space, complained High Tactician Vemra, as another Krell cruiser reported critical damage from a kinetic strike. They refuse to engage in proper formation combat because they know they would lose in a direct confrontation. Throk replied. Though his confidence was beginning to waver, the humans seemed to have an endless supply of missiles, railgun ammunition, and the willingness to sacrifice their vessels to inflict damage on the Krell fleet. What truly disturbed Throk was the complete absence of panic or surrender negotiations from the human command structure. The carrier Indomitable took a direct hit from a Krell plasma lance that penetrated its main hull and detonated 3 decks simultaneously. 4,000 human crew members died in the explosion, their life signs vanishing from sensors in a microsecond. The Krell intercepted human communications following the loss. Expecting to hear desperation or pleas for mercy, instead, they heard Admiral Chen's voice calmly adjusting tactical formations and reassigning strike groups to cover the gap in their defensive line. Indomitable is lost. she stated with no emotion in her tone. Redirect their assigned targets to the Moscow and the Cairo. All ships maintain firing solutions and continue evasive maneuvers. There was no mourning. No hesitation, just cold professional efficiency in the face of catastrophic losses. They do not break. Observed the Krell psychological warfare specialist with something approaching concern. Every species we have conquered showed signs of morale collapse after losing 10% of their forces. The humans have lost 30% and are fighting. Harder than before, Admiral Chen stood in the command center of the lunar citadel, watching the holographic display that showed the positions of every human ship and platform across the battle space. Had lost friends, colleagues, and thousands of brave souls who had volunteered to stand between Earth and its would-be conquerors. Admiral, we are receiving reports from all colonies and military reserves. Reported her communications officer. Protocol Omega is active. Chen allowed herself a grim smile at those words. Protocol Omega was humanity's final insurance policy. The plan they had developed for exactly this scenario across every human settlement, from the orbital habitats around Earth to the mining colonies in the asteroid belt. Civilian vessels were being retrofitted with weapons. Cargo haulers received missile pods bolted to their hulls. Mining ships had their industrial cutting lasers recalibrated for combat. And science stations began coordinating as forward observation posts within 12 hours of Protocol Omega's activation. Humanity's combat-capable vessels increased from 47 to over 300. They were not warships by Krell standards, but they could fight, and more importantly, they could die buying time for Earth's factories to build more weapons. Mr. Throck stared at his tactical display in disbelief as the number of hostile contacts continued to climb. They are arming civilian vessels, he said, his voice tight with frustration. Every human with a ship is now a combatant. This violates every principle of civilized warfare. Vemra protested. They are sacrificing non-military personnel. I do not think they recognize the distinction anymore, replied the psychological warfare specialist. Recommend we begin broadcasting recordings of human history to understand their mindset. The Krell intercepted and translated human historical databases, expecting to find records of a peaceful species. Forced into war, what they found instead made Throke's blood run cold in his veins. Humanity's entire recorded history was an unbroken chain of warfare, genocide, survival against impossible environmental conditions, and conflict on a scale that dwarfed anything in Krell experience. The humans had fought wars that killed tens of millions of their own kind over ideology, resources, territory, and religious differences. They had survived ice ages, plague pandemics, asteroid impacts. In every disaster their death world of a planet could inflict upon them, they had split the atom and immediately weaponized it, outbuilding devices capable of destroying their own civilization dozens of times over. They spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing each other, Throck said slowly as he reviewed the historical files. Every tactical doctrine, every weapon system, every psychological warfare technique was developed fighting opponents of equal intelligence and creativity. They never fought a lesser species. Vemra whispered in dawning horror. They only ever fought themselves. The implications settled over the Krell command staff like a shroud of ice. The Dominion had conquered dozens of species, but always ones that were peaceful by nature or had evolved. Unforgiving worlds, humanity had evolved on a planet that tried to kill them constantly, and they had responded by becoming apex predators who competed against each other. They fight like the galaxy itself wounded them first. Throck transmitted in his report to the Dominion High Command. These humans do not know how to surrender because surrender meant death on their homeworld. The battle continued as the Krell fleet pressed deeper into human defensive space. Determined to break through to Earth itself, Human Destroyer executed a suicide run on a Krell battleship, ramming at full acceleration and detonating its reactor core on impact. Both vessels vanished in a expanding fireball of superheated plasma and debris. Insane, breathed Vemra as she watched the tactical recording. They destroyed their own ship. Cost-effective, corrected Throck grimly. They traded one destroyer for our most powerful battleship and are probably celebrating the exchange ratio. Human tactics grew more aggressive as they learned from each engagement. Adapting their strategies to exploit every weakness in Krell defenses, they used nuclear explosions to create electromagnetic pulses that disrupted Krell sensors, fired railgun slugs from unexpected vectors, and coordinated attacks with split-second timing. The Krell had superior technology, but the humans were using their inferior weapons with masterful efficiency in the depths of Earth's secure command bunkers. Military strategists worked around the clock analyzing Krell tactical patterns. They fight by the book, observed General Park as he studied the engagement records. Their formations are textbook perfect, which makes them predictable. Predictable enemies die. Admiral Chen agreed. Distribute the analysis to all combat groups immediately. I want every captain to know exactly how the Krell will respond to our maneuvers. The Krell Dominion sent a priority message to War Master Throck. With new orders and massive reinforcements, 600 additional warships arrive within the week to crush human resistance through overwhelming numerical superiority. Surely they will surrender when they see our full strength? The message concluded with absolute confidence. Throot read the orders and felt doubt gnawing at his certainty. For the first time in his long military career, he had watched the humans fight for 3 days straight without rest, without mercy, and without any sign of breaking. They had lost tens of thousands of their people and hundreds of vessels. Yet they continued to fight with cold precision. Transmit acknowledgement of orders, commanded his communications officer. The reinforcements will be welcome, but privately. Throck wondered if 600 ships would be enough to conquer a species that had already proven they would rather die fighting than live as subjects. The humans had awakened something in the Krell Dominion that had slumbered for millennia. Genuine fear of an opponent. Admiral Chen received intelligence reports on the incoming Krell reinforcements and called an emergency council of all senior military commanders. They are sending 600 more ships. She announced without preamble, this war is about to get much worse before it gets better. Do we have enough ammunition to continue fighting at this intensity? Asked General Kowalski from Mars Command. No, Chen answered honestly, but we will make more. Fight harder and make them pay for every meter of space they take from us. What are our orders, Admiral? Asked Captain Rodriguez of the carrier. Defiant Chen looked at the faces of her commanders, seeing determination mixed with exhaustion and grief. We fight. She said simply, we fight until they leave, or until there is nothing left of us to fight with. Earth stands, humanity endures. And we will show these conquerors what it means to attack a species that has survived 10,000 years of killing each other. The Krell reinforcements were coming. But so was humanity's response. Every factory on Earth, Mars, and the lunar surface was retooled for weapons production. Every able-bodied human who could fly a ship or fire a weapon volunteered for combat duty. The galaxy was about to witness what happened when humanity stopped fighting itself and focused all that accumulated rage and tactical brilliance on a common enemy. Warmster Throck did not know it yet, but he had made the worst mistake in Krell history. He had given humanity a reason to unite. The Krell reinforcement fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system with 600 warships arranged in perfect battle formation. Supreme Commander Zelth had taken personal command of the combined forces. Determined to end this embarrassing conflict and restore the Dominion's reputation, 900 ships against a primitive species with inferior technology. Zelth announced to his assembled commanders, this war ends within the week. War Master Throck maintained a careful neutral expression, but his experience fighting the humans for the past 2 weeks had taught him caution. The humans are resourceful opponents. He warned, they do not fight as we expect civilized species to fight. Then we will teach them the price of resistance. Zelth replied dismissive. With combined Krell fleet advanced toward Earth's orbital space, expecting to find a demoralized enemy ready to collapse under overwhelming force. Instead, they discovered that humanity's defensive perimeter had expanded significantly since the initial invasion. Human weapons platforms now extended from Earth to Mars, creating a defensive network that covered millions of kilometers. Mining ships armed with improvised railguns patrolled the asteroid belt. Cargo haulers loaded with nuclear missiles lurked among the outer planets, and science vessels coordinated targeting data across the entire system. How many platforms are active? Zelth demanded as his tactical officers struggled to update the threat assessment. Conservative. estimates place human defensive positions. At over 5,000 individual installations came the reply they have fortified everything from small asteroids to their outer planetary moons. The Krell fleet pushed forward, confident that superior firepower would overwhelm the human defenses. Through sheer destructive capacity, what followed was 3 weeks of the most brutal space combat the Dominion had experienced in centuries. Human forces refused to engage in conventional battles, instead using hit-and-run tactics that exploited every weakness in Krell formations. A squad of human destroyers would appear without warning, launch a devastating salvo of missiles and railgun fire, then disappear behind planetary bodies or into asteroid fields. Krell ships trying to pursue found themselves ambushed by hidden weapons platforms that activated at point-blank range. They are using their entire solar system as a weapons platform. Throck explained to an increasingly frustrated Zalth, every moon, every asteroid, every piece of space debris is either a weapon or a hiding place. Then we will destroy everything in this cursed system. Zelth snarled. The Krell began systematic bombardment of human positions, but for every platform they destroyed, 2 more seemed to activate. Human factories were producing weapons faster than the Krell could destroy them, and civilian volunteers continued to crew vessels that had no business being in combat. A cargo hauler named the Spirit of Mumbai executed a successful attack on a Krell battlecruiser, its improvised missile pods overwhelming the warship's point defense systems. The hauler's crew of 12 civilians became instant heroes across human space, their sacrifice buying enough time for a human destroyer squadron to finish off the damaged Krell. Vessel Supreme Commander Zelth watched his casualty. Reports climbed past 200 ships and made a decision that would haunt him. Prepare the World Breaker, he commanded. The World Breaker was the Dominion's most terrible weapon. A massive vessel equipped with a gravitational disruptor capable of shattering planets. It had been used 3 times in Krell history against species that refused to surrender, and each time the results had broken all resistance. Supreme Commander, deploying the World Breaker against their home world may violate the Galactic Council's protocols on warfare, cautioned one of his advisors. The Council has no authority over Dominion military operations. Zelth replied coldly, the humans will surrender or watch their planet crack apart. The World Breaker emerged from faster-than-light transit at the edge of Earth's defensive zone. A ship so massive it generated its own detectable gravity. Well, Admiral Chen received the sensor data and felt ice forming in her stomach as the technical analysis came. Through it is a planet killer, reported her science advisor with barely controlled terror. If that weapon fires, Earth will be destroyed regardless of anything we can do to stop it. How long until it is in firing range? Chen asked, forcing her voice to remain steady. 18 hours at current velocity. Chen looked around the command center at her exhausted staff, many of whom had not slept in days. Send a priority message to all human forces across the system. She ordered. Every ship, every platform, every weapon we have targets the World Breaker, even if we throw everything at it. Our chances of penetrating its shields are minimal, protested her tactical officer. Then we make our peace with God and attack anyway, Chen replied, because the alternative is watching Earth die. The human response to the World Breaker was exactly what Zalth had hoped for. Complete panic and desperate attempts to destroy the massive vessel. What he had not anticipated was the sheer suicidal determination of the human counterattack. Every human ship in the solar system began accelerating toward the World Breaker on intercept courses that could only end in collision. Hundreds of vessels, from mighty carriers to small mining craft, all broadcasting the same message on open channels: if we die, you die with us. They are attempting mass kamikaze attacks, reported Zelth's tactical officer with disbelief. All ships engage and destroy incoming hostiles. The Krell fleet opened fire with everything they had, creating a wall of plasma and particle beam fire between the World Breaker and the incoming human vessel. Ships died by the dozens, their hulls vaporized or torn apart by Krell weapons. But the survivors kept coming. The Spirit of Humanity, one of Earth's newest carriers, led the charge with Admiral Chen's flag captain at the helm, all crew to escape pods. Captain Morrison ordered as his ship shuddered under Krell fire, "I will complete the attack run alone." "Negative," came Chen's voice over the communicator from the lunar citadel. "If this is humanity's last stand, we stand together." Morrison smiled grimly and kept his course locked on the Worldbreaker, watching his tactical display fill with the icons of human ships. Following him into certain death, the Worldbreaker's gravitational disruptor reached full charge, its massive weapon systems preparing to fire the shot that would end Earth Supreme. Commander Zelth watched the countdown and felt a moment of regret for what he was about to do then. Something impossible happened that would be analyzed by military historians for centuries from the surface of Earth's moon. A single massive railgun fired a projectile that had been in preparation since the Krell first arrived. The round was a solid tungsten slug the size of a building, accelerated to 30% the speed of light by a magnetic rail system that drew power from every reactor on the lunar surface at that velocity. The projectile possessed kinetic energy equivalent to multiple nuclear weapons concentrated in a single point. The Worldbreaker's shields, designed to withstand conventional weapons fire, were never meant to stop. Relativistic kill vehicle, the tungsten slug punched through the shields like they did not exist and struck the Worldbreaker's main hull with the force of a small asteroid impact. The massive vessel exploded in a fireball that consumed 40 surrounding Krell ships. Caught in the blast, radius debris from the Worldbreaker spread across thousands of kilometers, creating a temporary debris field that disrupted the entire Krell formation. Admiral Chen stared at the tactical display in stunned silence as the Worldbreaker's icon disappeared. "Confirm kill," she whispered. "Worldbreaker is destroyed," her tactical officer reported with shaking voice. The lunar railgun made a direct hit. Chen closed her eyes and allowed herself one moment of relief before returning to the battle at hand. "All ships, press the attack," she ordered. "Make them pay for every second they remain in our system." The human fleet, energized by the impossible victory, threw themselves at the disorganized Krell formation with renewed fear. Supreme Commander Zelth watched his most powerful weapon destroyed and felt something he had never experienced in 4 decades of military service. Genuine fear. How did they accelerate a projectile to relativistic speed? He demanded. "Our intelligence said they lacked that capability. They built the weapon specifically to counter our Worldbreaker." Throck replied quietly. "They anticipated our strategy and prepared a countermeasure." Zalth studied the tactical situation with growing horror as he realized the implications. The humans had known the Dominion would deploy the planet killer, had prepared for it, and had hidden their most powerful weapon until the perfect moment they tricked us into bringing our most valuable asset into range of their hidden gun. He said slowly, "These primitives outmaneuvered the entire Dominion fleet across the galaxy. Species monitoring the conflict through long-range sensors had just witnessed something that challenged every assumption about human capabilities." The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to discuss the implications of what they had signed. Counselor Verith of the Ascended Chorus addressed the assembled representatives with grave concern. "The humans destroyed a Dominion planet killer with a single shot," she stated. "They possess weapons technology we did not know existed, and the tactical intelligence to deploy it effectively." "Should we intervene?" asked another counselor. The destruction of the Worldbreaker sent shockwaves through the galactic council chambers located in the neutral space station of Sanctuary Prime. 200 species had gathered to watch the conflict at Earth unfold, initially expecting the Krell Dominion to achieve victory within days. 3 months had passed since the invasion began, and the humans were still fighting with a ferocity that defied all historical precedent. Counselor Verith projected the latest casualty statistics for all assembled representatives to review. In stunned silence, the Krell Dominion has lost 1,200 warships to date. She announced their casualties exceed 2 million military personnel. The humans have lost approximately 400 million civilians and military personnel combined, yet they continue to resist Ambassador Thren of the Peaceful Communion. raised one of his three hands in question. How is this possible? He asked the humans possess inferior technology and smaller numbers by all military theory. They should have collapsed months ago. They refused to accept defeat, replied Counselor Vareth. Simply every model we have for predicting species behavior in warfare fails when applied to humanity. The holographic display shifted to show recordings of human forces in combat. Their tactics, aggressive and seemingly reckless, a human destroyer squadron executed a coordinated attack on a Krell battle group, losing 3 ships but destroying 5 Krell vessels. In the exchange, they celebrate losing fewer ships than they destroy, observed Ambassador Krell with something approaching horror. Every engagement is measured by exchange ratios rather than absolute losses because they understand mathematics, interjected Counselor Voreth, a species known for their strategic military analysis. 3 human ships, 4 or 5 Krell ships means the Krell lose faster in a war of attrition. Humans are playing a long game, while the Krell expect quick surrender, the Council reviewed humanity's military history with growing unease at what the records revealed. Earth's dominant species had spent 10,000 years engaged in almost continuous warfare against itself. Its conflicts ranged from small tribal skirmishes to global wars that killed millions and consumed entire civilizations. Look at this. Varath highlighted a particular historical period. The humans fought to planetary wars within 30 years of each other. The Second War killed 70 million of their own kind and ended with them using nuclear weapons on population centers. They are a death world species. Vorath stated with certainty, Earth is classified as a Class 9 hazard world with extreme environmental challenges, predatory megafauna, and climatic instability. Humans evolved by surviving constant threat from their own planet, then turned that survival instinct against each other. Ambassador Thren's peaceful species had evolved on a garden world with abundant resources and no natural predators. The concept of continuous warfare was alien to his understanding of civilized behavior. Why would any species fight itself so viciously? He asked with genuine confusion. Competition for limited resources? Vorath explained, Earth has always had scarcity built into its ecosystem. Humans learned early that survival meant taking what they needed from others of their own kind. They are barbarians, declared Ambassador Krell with disdain. Barely civilized primitives who got lucky with a few clever weapons. Then why are they winning? Earth challenged. The question hung in the chamber's recycled air, as none of the assembled representatives could provide a satisfactory answer. The recordings continued, showing human forces adapting their tactics after every engagement. When the Krell learned to counter human missile swarms, the humans switched to railgun bombardment. When Krell shields adapted to kinetic weapons, humans deployed directed energy weapons and nuclear-pumped lasers. They iterate faster than the Krell can respond. Vorath observed, each human commander seems to learn from the collective experience of all other commanders. How is that possible without a hive mind? Asked Thren. They share tactical data across their entire fleet in real time. Vareth brought up intercepted human communications. Their quantum communication network allows instantaneous coordination across light years. They move and think as a unified organism despite being individuals. The implications settled over the council like a physical weight. Humanity had weaponized quantum entanglement itself, giving them a coordination advantage that most species required biological hive minds to achieve. The Krell are fighting an opponent that combines individual creativity with collective coordination. Vorath summarized, every human ship can act independently while still working as part of a unified strategic plan. The Council reviewed footage of human civilian populations, responding to the invasion with equal concern instead of panic and chaos. Humans had mobilized with military precision factories converted to weapons production within days. Civilians volunteered for combat duty in staggering numbers. And entire populations worked around the clock to support the war effort. They have no separation between military and civilian populations during wartime. Observed Vareth. Every human becomes a combatant when their species is threatened. That is a violation of the Galactic Conventions on Warfare, protested Ambassador Thren. The humans are not signatories to those conventions, Vareth replied. They did not know galactic civilization existed until the Krell invaded. They are fighting by their own rules, which are apparently far more brutal than ours. The Council watched as human diplomats, working from secure bunkers deep beneath Earth's surface, began broadcasting messages to every corner of known space. Ambassador Sarah Chen, Admiral Chen's younger sister, addressed the galaxy with calm professionalism, despite the war raging above her homeworld, people of the galaxy. Humanity did not seek this conflict. She stated, we reached for the stars, hoping to find friends, fellow explorers, and species with whom we could share knowledge and culture instead. We found conquerors who believed our kindness meant weakness. We want you to understand something about humanity, Sarah continued. We spent 10,000 years learning to survive on a planet that tried to kill us. We spent another 10,000 years fighting each other to perfect every possible method of warfare and survival. Now we face an external threat. And for the first time in our history, all of humanity fights as one. Watch closely, Sarah said, her voice carrying steel beneath the diplomatic tone. Because we will only demonstrate once what happens when you mistake human restraint for inability. The broadcast ended. But its message resonated across the Galactic Council. They are warning us, Boreth said quietly. Not threatening, but warning that humanity is more dangerous than we assumed should we intervene to stop the bloodshed, asked Thren with genuine concern for both species. On whose behalf? Ferrith challenged the Krell, who invaded without provocation, or the humans who are defending their right to exist. The intervention protocols require unanimous consent, added another counselor. I will not vote to save the Krell from the consequences of their own aggression. The council remained deadlocked. A species debated the proper response to the situation. Some argued for immediate intervention to prevent further loss of life on both sides. Others insisted that the Krell deserved whatever fate humanity delivered after initiating an unprovoked war. A third faction, growing in influence, argued that humanity posed a potential threat to galactic stability if they survived. If the humans defeat the Krell Dominion, they will emerge as a military power capable of threatening any species in the galaxy, argued Ambassador Krell. We should act now to contain them before they become unstoppable and give them a reason to view all galactic species as enemies. Vareth countered, I would rather have humanity as an uncertain friend than a confirmed enemy deep in human space. Admiral Chen was conducting her own analysis of the galactic situation. The Council is watching us, she told her senior staff. Every species in the galaxy is trying to decide if we are victims worthy of sympathy or threats that need to be contained. What do we do about it? Asked General Park. We win. Chen replied simply, we defeat the Krell so decisively that no species ever considers invading human space again. And we do it in a way that makes the galaxy respect us rather than fear us. How do we accomplish both goals simultaneously? Park challenged, by showing them we can destroy our enemies, but choose to show mercy when victory is achieved. Chen explained, we fight like demons when attacked, but we do not become monsters in the process. Her staff exchanged glances, understanding the difficult balance their commander was proposing. Meanwhile, human scientists working in laboratories across Earth and Mars had achieved a breakthrough that would change the nature of the war. Dr. Elizabeth Foster addressed Admiral Chen via secure holographic link with barely contained excitement. Admiral, we have successfully weaponized quantum entanglement on a fleet-wide scale. She reported, what does that mean in practical terms? Chen asked, it means every human ship can share targeting data, tactical analysis, and strategic coordination instantaneously, regardless of distance. Foster explained the Krell fleet will be fighting an opponent that thinks and reacts as a single unified force. They will not be able to isolate and destroy individual ships because those ships will have the tactical awareness of the entire fleet. Admiral Chen smiled for the first time in Supreme Executor Varn arrived at the Sol system with the entirety of the Krell Dominion's remaining military strength gathered behind him too. 1,000 warships entered faster than light transit simultaneously, the largest fleet the Dominion had. Assembled in 3 centuries, Varn had replaced Supreme Commander Zelth after the Worldbreaker disaster, and his orders from the Dominion High Command were brutally simple. Exterminate humanity at any cost. We have committed every available warship to this operation. Varn addressed his assembled commanders via holographic conference. Failure is not acceptable because we have nothing left to send if this fleet is defeated. War Master Throck, the only surviving senior officer from the initial invasion, stood silent as Varn outlined his strategy. We will advance in a unified formation that concentrates our firepower. Varn explained the humans cannot possibly withstand 2,000 ships firing simultaneously. We will burn every human settlement from orbit until they surrender or are extinct. Throck wanted to warn Varn that the humans had proven adaptable beyond all expectations. But he remained silent. Perhaps overwhelming force would finally break the human resistance. Though Throck doubted, if the Krell fleet emerged at the edge of the Sol system and began their advance toward Earth, what they found waiting for them made Varn questioned every intelligence report he had received. Humanity's defensive network had grown exponentially in the weeks since the World Breaker's destruction. The entire solar system bristled with weapons platforms, mobile defense stations, and fleets of improvised warships. Conservative estimates place human combat-capable vessels at over 1,500. Reported the tactical officer. They have armed everything that can fly and mounted weapons on platforms. Throughout their system, Admiral Chen stood in the Lunar Citadel's command center. Watching the massive Krell fleet approach with cold determination, she had lost so many people over the past months, seen so much destruction, and carried the weight of Earth's survival on her shoulders. This is their final push, she said to her exhausted staff. They have committed everything to this attack. Do we have enough ammunition to sustain combat against 2,000 ships? Asked General Park. No. Chen admitted honestly, but we have enough to make them wish they had never heard of humanity. She opened a communication channel to every human vessel, platform, and colony across the solar system. People of Earth, people of humanity, wherever you are. She began today. The Krell Dominion brings their full strength against us. Believing numbers will accomplish what skill and courage could not, they expect us to break, to surrender, to accept subjugation, rather than continue fighting. But we are humans, and we have never known how to quit. If this is humanity's last day among the stars, let us make it one the galaxy will remember forever. All ships, all platforms, engage at will. The final battle began as the Krell fleet entered weapons range and opened fire with concentrated volleys from 2,000 warships. The volume of fire was staggering. A wall of plasma and particle beams that should have overwhelmed any defensive position. But the humans did not fight as individuals anymore. The quantum communication network linked every human vessel into a unified tactical consciousness that responded. Two threats with inhuman precision ships coordinated their movements to present minimal targets while maximizing their own firing solutions weapons. Platforms across the solar system timed their salvos to arrive at Krell positions simultaneously. From multiple vectors, the Krell formation began taking casualties immediately, as human fire found weak points in their shields with unnatural accuracy. How are they doing this? Arn demanded, as another squadron reported critical damage. Their coordination is impossible without a central command node. I cannot identify any central command structure. His tactical officer replied, every human ship seems to be acting as both individual and collective simultaneously. What Varn could not know was that humanity's quantum network allowed every ship's captain to access tactical data from the entire Yi fleet. When one human vessel identified a weakness in Krell shield harmonics, that information propagated to every other ship instantly. When a Krell formation adjusted its defensive pattern, every human captain knew about it before the maneuver completed. The humans were fighting as a hive mind while maintaining individual creativity and initiative. It was a combination no other species had achieved, and it was devastating. The battle raged for 6 hours as the Krell fleet pushed deeper into the Sol system. Paying in blood for every kilometer gained, human casualties mounted as ships were destroyed by overwhelming Krell firepower. But the survivors fought with increasing effectiveness. Then Admiral Chen activated weapon systems that humanity had held in reserve for exactly this moment. Release the relativistic kill vehicles. She ordered. Humanity had spent months accelerating massive tungsten slugs to near light speed using hidden mass drivers scattered throughout the outer solar system. The projectiles had been launched weeks ago, following carefully calculated trajectories. that would intersect the Krell fleet's projected cores now. Those weapons arrived at their targets with the force of nuclear weapons. Concentrated in solid metal, the Krell fleet's formation shattered as relativistic projectiles punched through shields. Designed for conventional weapon ships, vanished in explosions as hypervelocity impacts. Release kinetic energy equivalent to multiple warheads' evasive maneuvers? Varn shouted, but moving 2,000 ships in coordinated fashion took time. The humans were not giving them the second wave of hidden weapons activated as antimatter mines placed months ago in the Krell fleet's path detonated simultaneously. Metantimatter annihilation created miniature stars that consumed everything within their blast. Radius Krell ships, caught in the explosions, simply ceased to exist. Vaporized by temperatures that matched the cores of suns, they have been planning this for months, Throck said with dawning horror. Every weapon, every platform, every tactic was prepared specifically for this final battle. We did not invade their system. He continued, we walked into an elaborate trap they have been constructing since the day we arrived. Varn watched his fleet being systematically destroyed and felt the certainty of victory crumbling beneath. Been 14 minutes of sustained combat. The Krell Dominion had lost 900 warships, then humanity deployed their final surprise. The weapon they had hoped never to use. Admiral Chen gave the order with a heavy heart. Knowing the galaxy would judge humanity by what happened next, activate solar lance deep within the sun's photosphere. Humanity had constructed a network of magnetic field generators over the past 3 months. The generators activated simultaneously, channeling solar plasma through artificially created magnetic corridors aimed directly at the Krell fleet stream of superheated plasma, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, erupted from the sun's surface. The solar flare, controlled and directed by human technology, struck the center of the Krell formation with the power of a stellar event 500. Krell ships vanished in the first second as temperatures exceeding 10 million degrees vaporized their hulls. Magnetic containment collapsed after 15 seconds. But the damage was catastrophic. Supreme Executor Varn stared at his tactical display in absolute disbelief as 1,400 warships disappeared from his fleet roster. Humans had weaponized their own star and used it to destroy the largest military fleet the Dominion had ever assembled. All ships retreat to faster-than-light transit distance. He broadcast across all Krell frequencies. This war is over. We surrender, Admiral. Chen received the Krell surrender broadcast and allowed herself one moment of relief before responding. Krell forces, your surrender is acknowledged, she transmitted. Withdraw from the Sol system immediately and do not return any Krell vessel remaining in human space. In 6 hours will be destroyed. The surviving Krell ships began their retreat, leaving behind debris fields that would orbit the sun for centuries. The Galactic Council watched the battle's conclusion in stunned silence as humanity demonstrated the full extent of their military capability. They weaponized a star. Counselor Vareth whispered they channeled solar plasma through magnetic fields and used it as a directed energy weapon. The technological sophistication required for that feat exceeds anything in our databases. Counselor Voreth studied the tactical recordings with professional appreciation. The humans did not just win through superior firepower. He observed they won through superior planning, coordination, and willingness to sacrifice everything to protect their homeworld. They turned their entire solar system into a weapon, and the Krell fleet into target practice. The Council convened emergency session to address the new reality of galactic politics. Ambassador Thren addressed his fellow counselors with urgency. We must extend formal diplomatic recognition to humanity immediately. He stated they have proven their capability to defend themselves and their right to sovereignty. More importantly, we must ensure they view us as potential allies rather than future enemies. Agreed, Broth said. Simply, the alternative is waiting. Until humanity develops faster-than-light weapons and offensive capabilities, I would rather negotiate with them now.